You know it's bad when people start to hate this guy almost as much as they hate this guy. Hey guys, what's going on? James here, and today we are going to be talking about something that was spurred by this comment right here, and that says, hey, can you make a video on why we should fire Mike Smith? Well, sure I can. I mean, this one isn't exactly the most difficult discussion ever in the world. However, I will try and be as detailed as I humanly can be for you guys. So a lot of people have not been liking Mike Smith lately. The reason for that is because they feel that his defense isn't good and that he doesn't know what he's doing and that he doesn't adjust game-wise and that he doesn't call the right defensive plays, and overall he just doesn't know what he's doing. Now, before I get into the stats, I want to give you one example of how this in-game adjustments didn't happen. I can only give you one example because this is only the one example that I was able to do research for. I don't have many other examples because I just didn't do the research. If you really want to, go do the research yourself. But it was the game against Atlanta, a player that both Mike Smith and Dirk Cutter both know very well, and Dirk Cutter said the following. I believe it was 14 coverages, I believe, that they tried on Julio Jones. Don't quote me on that, but it was 10 plus. I know that. I know it was 10 plus. I'm sure of that. So, oh, we tried 10 plus coverages on Julio Jones, didn't work. One thing that they didn't try, and a lot of people have pointed this out, is that you didn't put Brent Grimes on Julio Jones, and you didn't double cover Julio Jones. So all day Julio Jones was going up against guys like Ryan Smith and Justin Evans. That's not good. You have a guy who just went from being converted from a cornerback to a safety back to a cornerback, and then you have a who also, this is his first year being a corner for the Buccaneers. He used to be a safety, and now you have a guy, Justin Evans, who, yes, he's very good, and he's one of the better pieces that we've had on the defense this year. Very surprising and very talented. However, he's a rookie, and he's going up against arguably the first or second best wide receiver in the game, Julio freaking Jones. And you didn't think maybe we should double cover this guy, at least double cover him with Ryan Smith and Justin Evans, or maybe we put Brent Grimes on him and still double cover him because, you know, it's Julio Jones? No, that wasn't the case. They didn't make that in-game adjustment. They decided, whatever, let's just try different coverages, and it's Julio Jones. It's not gonna freaking work. You know, there's a reason he's one of the best wide receivers in the game. He can beat most coverages. So that was one example. There's a lot of things people were turning to saying that's BS. That's complete BS. Like, why did you allow that to happen? Just one example. But I want to get into the stats with you guys today, okay? I want to get into the stats with you guys. I'm a stats guy. I look a lot into the stats because why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you? A lot of people have been defending Mike Smith, saying, oh, our defense isn't that bad. Not a lot of people, but some people have defended Mike Smith before, and some people don't want Mike Smith to be fired. Let me just tell you guys about these stats first, and then we can talk about it, okay? So there's a lot of stats here that I'm going to be naming off, okay? So the Buccaneers defense currently under Mike Smith, up to this point, this is December 15th, so up to this point, the Buccaneers defense is 11th in points allowed per game. They've allowed 24 points per game, which means they're the 11th worst team in terms of points allowed per game, or maybe the 11th best team. I can't remember which. I'm pretty sure it's the 11th worst. Excuse me, hold on. Yeah, it's the 11th worst. Sorry. Yeah, it's the 11th worst team in terms of points allowed per game. Second worst team in total yards allowed per game. They've allowed 389.3 yards per game. That's pretty freaking bad. They are first in yards per play allowed, which I believe was somewhere in like 6 point something or other. They are first in third down percentage. They're the worst in third down percentage, meaning that the Buccaneers give up the most percentage of third downs. So teams convert 48.3% of their third downs against the Buccaneers. So almost half of the time they're converting on third down against the Buccaneers. A problem that the Buccaneers have had for a while, and it's been highlighted even more so in Mike Smith's defense, okay? But let's go on. They are the best team in fourth down percentages. They've only allowed 14% of the fourth downs to be converted. So hey, good on them. They're 1 of 7 there. They're 10th in defensive penalties. They're the 10th worst team in defensive penalties, which also they're the 10th worst team in defensive penalty yards. So this isn't too terrible of a thing, I guess. It's It's not too bad. But obviously it could be improved upon. The Buccaneers defense right now has 90 penalties for 789 yards. Now, if you guys remember, this team has had a lot of flack for being undisciplined, and I feel they've gotten at least somewhat better in that regard. I know it might only be by 2 spots, but still. They're 29th in first down penalties, so they're the the third best team in terms of first down penalties, so they're not getting penalties on first down. Very good, that's a positive for Mike Smith. They're the worst team in passing yards allowed per game. They've allowed 276 passing yards per game. Okay. Which means that your cornerbacks aren't doing so good in your secondary, and your passing defense isn't doing that good, Mike Smith. So, I don't know. They're 12th in interceptions with 12 interceptions. Okay. They're the 12th worst team in terms of interceptions, but okay. They are the worst team in team sacks. Do you guys want to know how many sacks the Buccaneers have? Let's guess. I'll give you guys a second. I'll pause. 17. They have 17 sacks, and we are almost to week 17, which means if they stay on this course, let's say they get like 3 more sacks. The Bucs will barely... They'll be averaging... I'm not an expert here, but let's say they get 3 more sacks, 20 out of 17. That's like, what? 1 point something sacks per game as a team? That's really... I mean, that's great if it's a single player, but as a team... As a team, you only get barely over 1 sack a game? Holy crap, that's not good. It's not good at all, you know? But moving on. Everybody knows about that. They're the 3rd worst team in terms of passing yards per attempt. So quarterbacks are throwing about, or passing offenses are getting about 8 yards per attempt against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, which is almost a first down. They're almost averaging a first down per attempt. Holy crap. That's bad. They're 16th in rushing yards. They're the 16th worst team in rushing yards allowed per game with 113.2, which means our rushing defense is kind of middle of the pack. Okay. They're the worst team in receiving yards allowed per game with 283.8. That's really all the stats I felt I needed to look into for this. So what can we gather from this? Well, the Buccaneers passing offense is awful. It's terrible. It's just not working. They're the worst in yards per play allowed, or they're the worst in yards per play allowed. They're the worst in receiving yards per game allowed. They're the worst in passing yards per game allowed. So guys are throwing the ball the best against them. They're receiving the ball the best against them. They're converting all of their third downs the best against the Bucs. They can't stop teams on third down. They can't stop the passing game. You can't stop their wide receivers. You can't stop their quarterbacks, which I guess kind of goes hand in hand. They can't get a sack to save their entire life. They're not necessarily the most disciplined defense in the entire world. They're the 2nd worst team next to the Giants in terms of total yards allowed per game, which means they can't stop any type of offense. They're the 11th worst team in points allowed per game, which means, again, they're averaging teams are averaging 24 points a game against the Buccaneers. That's not good. That if every game somebody is going to score an average of 24 points, you're not going to win a lot of games. That's just not good. They're 29th in first down penalties, or they're the 29th best team in first down penalties. Cool, great. Whatever, that's fine, that's cool. You guys don't have a lot of first down penalties. I'm proud of you. Good job, you got that one. You're disciplined on first down. And you're 12th in interceptions. You're the 12th worst team, which the Bucs defense can't stop passing offenses. They do better at stopping running offenses. They're very middle of the pack of that. If there's one thing that this defense can hang its hat on, it's that, well, we're disciplined on first down. And we're at least more disciplined than 9 other teams overall as a defense. And we're average at best at stopping the running game. Yo, what about that passing offense, Mike Smith? Well, we don't talk about the passing offense, you know? It's bad. It's bad. I've laid the stats out for you guys, and this team, to me, looks like they can't stop anything. They seem undisciplined. Mike Smith doesn't know how to make in-game adjustments, as I presented with the Julio Jones example. I mean, it's just, what more is there to say? People who say that Mike Smith shouldn't be fired, I feel like they're wrong, obviously. A lot of people feel like they're wrong, and I think it's justified. He rotates players, which I get it to a certain degree. I somewhat get it on the defensive line. Well, you want to keep your pass rushers fresh. Whatever. I figure if you have a guy who's really good, you don't rotate him. You just let him play. And I think that also has something to say with maybe the conditioning of these players. Offensive linemen don't rotate usually. Why should defensive linemen? That's kind of my opinion on that. But secondaries. Let's talk about secondaries. He's rotating safeties. Please no. Please stop it, sir. Just stop that, Mike Smith. Please stop rotating safeties. Just play Justin Evans and TJ Ward. That's all I want. That's all I want, man. I've literally been talking about this since like week 1. That's all I want, is to just have Justin Evans and TJ Ward. And he still rotates safeties. Not a lot of people like that. Our pass rush can't frickin' get a sack to save its life. We're literally the worst team by 3 sacks. Like, that's just bad. He doesn't make the in-game adjustments. Our cornerbacks haven't been playing very good. Yes, Vernon Hargreaves III. I'll give him a slight pass because I mean, I'll give him a pass-ish. There's not much he can do. Ryan Smith has been pretty bad, and I know he's had some games where he's looked decent. No, it's Julio Jones, I know, but he hasn't been able to perform that well. I mean, it's in the freaking stats. If we were able to get pass rush and our cornerbacks were able to cover the guys, then we wouldn't have the worst passing defense in the league, bottom line. You know, and I know part of that might be because we can't get pressure on the quarterback. That might be part of it. But yeah, you got to cover your guys, you know, and I get it. It's so hard to cover these insane athletes, but they're also insane athletes, you know. And the problem could also lie in the pass rush. I don't know. But bottom line, Mike Smith should be fired. That's why he should be fired. I just presented you guys all the stats and all the facts, man. These are facts. So, bottom line, Mike Smith has an average run defense this year, the worst pass defense this year. His team's decently undisciplined, and he can't make in-game adjustments. And his team can't create pressure no matter what he does. And teams are almost converting half the time on third down against him. Those are all the reasons why Mike Smith should be fired. The Bucs have one of the worst defenses in the NFL in terms of yards. They do have the worst defense in terms of yards almost, in points almost. In passing yards, they do have the worst. In rushing yards, they're average. The Bucs have one of the worst defenses in the NFL. Bottom line. And is it Mike Smith's fault? Maybe. Maybe it's the defense's fault. We don't exactly have some stellar names at pass rush. But one of Mike Smith's jobs is to try and create pressure as a defensively minded guy. And he hasn't done it. And he rotates guys, and it doesn't work. And he doesn't adjust to certain things. He doesn't shut down number 1 wide receivers like he should. He doesn't double cover like he should. The cornerbacks can't cover everybody forever. And even when they are covering people, it's still suspect. Minus a couple of guys. Your Justin Evans has done pretty good. Brent Grimes has done all right. But bottom line, I mean, that's why Mike Smith should be fired. He's not good at passing offense. His team can't get a sack to save their life, which doesn't help his passing defense at all. His team's undisciplined, and they're converting on third downs half the time, pretty much. That's why Mike Smith should be fired. Bit ranty, but oh well. Why do you guys think Mike Smith should be fired? Let me know down in the comment section below. And as always, if you have a comment or if you have a suggestion for another video, go ahead and leave it down below as well. Again, thank you to Avery U for leaving the suggestion on why Mike Smith should be fired. Hopefully, I've presented you guys a pretty decent case on why Mike Smith should be fired, at least on a statistical standpoint. I can't talk about him as a personal guy. I don't know him personally. I don't know how he interacts with players. I don't know how that works, but in terms of a statistical standpoint, he hasn't performed, and he really shouldn't be around next season because of that. So again, hope you guys all enjoyed the video, and as always, I will see you in the next video, but until then, goodbye for now, guys.